So, in this segment, we're going to be talking about the government to launch a study on the economic benefits of reintroducing imperial units. Business ministers mocked for ludicrous attempt to quantify Brexit benefit. So, this is stupid. I'm going to say it now at the start of the video. This is dumb. Why is this dumb? Because A, it doesn't help anyone, and B, it makes things worse. Because, say for example, we put in a new law or whatever that manufacturers can have to use ounces, the imperial system. That's going to make exports harder because we're going to have to put the metric system on there as well. You can't sell 12 ounces of strawberries to the EU. You're going to have to put it in grams as well. This is going to make their costs worse. Like, how stupid is this? That they're so desperate to find Brexit benefits, going back to the older system that we abandoned. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. And especially with some of the misinformation around this, which people saying, "Oh, the government banned market traders, had to ban market traders from using the old imperial measurements when it came to selling fruit." When the only thing the EU said was you have to show both. You either show metric or you show both. And then they were like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that, me." And then they got punished for it, and they cried about it. Sure, those people are going to be happy, but a lot of those people are probably retired or dead. Or very old, I doubt they'll be doing much market work. But anyways, I digress a lot. So the government is to launch a study of the economic benefits of introducing imperial units of measurement to quantify a supposed advantage of Brexit at taxpayers' expense, no less. So that's where your taxes are going to. Ministers provoked mockery from opposition politicians with the ludicrous move, which will be overseen by the business department this year. I mean, surely if this was going to be so great, they would have done this report by now. They would have actioned it, last year. Johnson pledged to usher in a new era of generosity and tolerance towards traditional measurements. And he's trying to say, now we've left the EU, we can go back to the old way, the British way, the imperial way. Which is just dumb. The imperial system doesn't make sense. That's why people hate it. And suggested that measuring in pounds and ounces was an ancient liberty. Okay, and we got rid of said ancient liberty because it didn't work. It just causes confusion. This month, Mogg, Brexit Minister for Opportunities, in order to examine how Britain can benefit from leaving the EU. Imperial-only labelling fell out of business when Britain joined the EU in the sort of the European Common Market in the 1970s. But some people who remember the esoteric counting system remain attached to it because that's what they grew up using. I grew up using, mostly the metric system. We still do miles instead of kilometers and things like that. But for the most part, we use the metric system, for cooking and things like that. Going back to the imperial system makes no sense. As a kid, I always wondered what the other numbers on the side of the scale meant or the jug meant. And now I know it's ounces, but I never used it, never had to. Imperial's alternative system of measuring weights and volume of products was used more or less exclusively in Britain, though the US maintains a parallel system with similar names but different measurements, because that's how dumb this thing is, that US measurements are different to the UK's measurements. So when it comes to exporting things to the US, if we have to use their version of the imperial system, it just makes things even more confusing, especially when, if you have to explain to someone, we use this amount of ounces in certain products, they may get confused by it, and rightfully so, because the imperial system makes no sense. We'll go back to using yards and stuff. So, as opposed to the metric system of weight in which 1,000 grams are equivalent to 1 kilogram, the imperial system says there are 14 pounds in a stone and 16 ounces in a pound. For liquid, there are 20 fluid ounces in a pint and 160 fluid ounces in a gallon instead of the metric's 1,000 millimeters. They still use things like ounces on milk, but there's two kinds of milk I buy, which is the big one and the really big one. I don't check liters and stuff. So yeah, bit dumb, but okay. So this is how the imperial system works for anyone who lives on the continent or a sane country. While the measurements have largely been out of use for some 60 years, they are believed by politicians to be beloved by older voters. So this is just a vote getting mechanic, which is just going to cause problems for exports because to export to the EU, manufacturers are going to have to put both measurements on if the UK says, okay, we're moving back to the old metric system or the old imperial system. It doesn't make sense, and it's just going to cause confusion for younger shoppers. Anyone sort of under the age of 60, really, because I don't know what an ounce of strawberries are or a pound of strawberries. I don't do measurements like that. I use stones for weight, but that's about it. Like weighing myself, not like food. In reality, Britain operates a mixed system with businesses using metric weights and measures, while imperial miles are used on road signs and pints in pubs, which is a whack system. We should have gone full metric, but at least we don't use things like cups. That doesn't make sense. One heaped cup, in measurements. What the hell is that? Honestly. Paul Scully, a Tory business minister, said reintroducing imperial labelling would be an important step in taking back control. From who? The metric system is a far better system. It really is. And that a planned assessment of the economic impact on business will be carried out in due course, which it will be bad for business. Lib Dems business spokesperson Sarah Olney, who I've never heard of, accused the government of wasting taxpayer money, and there were more important things to worry about, which is true because, again, this report will be at taxpayer expense for a start, and secondly, it's not going to benefit businesses. It's going to make it worse and just confuse consumers, because what they'll do is they'll just use certain metrics to make it look like they're selling more of a certain product than they are. The fact that the government is undertaking a study into this shows just how out of touch they are. She told The Independent, as we go through a cost of living crisis and so many other things, right? The business department are looking at the impact of going back to an old ancient system that people don't use anymore. Honestly, it's ludicrous that they think this will help business. They after they hit them with a national insurance rise and have done nothing to help with their soaring energy bills, which are two really good points there. The government have done nothing to really help with energy and have put up taxes on people. That's what national insurance is, a tax. Ministers must explain how reverting to a system not used for nearly 60 years will help businesses attract new customers. I mean, it's not, especially since the Americans use their own version of the Imperial system. You're just going to cause more confusion. And how Imperial units will be of any help to companies looking to trade with the rest of the world, when the vast majority of countries use the metric system, because again, you're going to have to double label the measurements. That's all that's going to happen here, which is an extra cost. Instead of wasting taxpayer money looking to bring back imperial measurements, the government should be focusing on the real issues affecting businesses, like the miles of queues at our ports and the reams of red tape thrown up by Johnson's shambolic EU trade deal, which is absolutely 100% correct. And I hope to see more from this person, this Lib Dem MP, because she's spitting facts, absolute facts. The simple fact is, Boris Johnson has caused so many problems in the country, and going back to the imperial system will just make it worse. Scully said we're reviewing the EU ban on the use of imperial markings so that businesses have more choice over the measures they use, which isn't true. The EU didn't ban it. The EU just said you have to use both, and then businesses used the metric system because that was the one they actually had to use, and so it was cheaper than doing both. Honestly, Scully, mate, ridiculous human being. This is an important step in taking back control of our national rules. Is it changing the way we measure stuff? Is it that important? And this we will consult to ensure that we have the best evidence available which to make changes. But I thought you don't like experts. So who are you going to draft in? A bunch of boomers. An assessment of the economic impact will be carried out in due course, and this will be damaging for businesses because it's just going to cost them more. Because again, if they want to export stuff, it's going to have to use the metric system wherever they import. If the government says any imports have to have the metric, the imperial number on it, that EU business will be like, don't care about that, or they're just going to pass on the cost, which will most likely happen to British consumers, the ones who want to continue to export here. This is just so stupid, honestly, ridiculous country. To amend the words of a certain Tottenham manager, I just want one normal day of England. It will never happen, honestly. Like, how does this help anyone, really? I just... dumb. It's going to cost businesses more. It's going to reduce, depending on how they implement this, it's going to affect imports and exports, which have already taken a massive hit. And, nothing, they're not doing anything to help with the cost of living, anything to do with the national insurance increases. Instead, they just want to make life more difficult for people and appeal to boomers. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.